may want to, well, spread the hair out. And I'm looking for hairs that have twists or knots in them, like, or super fine. Like, look at this one here, right here. See this hair? It's real twisty. Has a lot of twists, so we're not going to use that. Here's another hair here. Let's pull this out. And let's look at it. Okay. This looks good. We can straighten this out. That will straighten. But I'm looking for other hairs here that have knots in them or irregularities or overly too small or too big. Here's a hair that's really, really fine. This hair is super, super fine. We won't use that. But we'll save that and use it just on cheap student bows. But this is, we're hairing a very high quality professional bow now. This one here is super fine. If it's a little smaller, that's okay. If it's a little bigger, it's okay. Because then they'll all kind of mesh together. But if they're super fine or really big, here's another really, really small, thin one. Right here. It's almost too fine. But it's nice and straight. Oh, here's one. See this hair here? Yeah, we'll keep that one. That one's okay. Now let's look down here at the bottom. I'm looking for just irregularities, and it's easier to see on the black. This batch of hair that we got this time, oh, here's one. See this right there? No, that wasn't it. This batch of hair is good. There's not too many bad ones in it. I've gotten hair before that has a lot of bad hairs. But you can, where did I find the one? Where is it again? Here. See that hair has a bad spot right there. It may be dirt or it might be a defect in the hair. But we're going to reserve that for just cheap student bows. From here you can see it, it looks a little thicker. But sometimes you actually see splits where hair is split. There's two of them. And I don't worry about the very ends, because the ends we cut off. It's more of towards the ends. That one's okay. Or if they have big irregularities, bumps in the hair, splits, and the good musicians can feel that on their bow.
Wow.
And it doesn't grab the string evenly. Does that make sense? Because the hair has to be elastic and grab the string very evenly. So this is the hair, this is the end of the tail here. So these hairs are a little bit smaller, a little finer. This hair is up by the body, so it's a little bit thicker. So we'll put this hair in the tip, and the slightly thicker hair goes toward the frog. but I'll move down. Oops. And I have a gauge here. I can pretty much feel it in my hand. This feels about right for a good violin bow. And this particular gauge comes from Germany, and I've marked on it where I like to keep violin, viola, and cello bows. And I go a little bit above it, a little bit below it sometimes. And then I push it down, and you can tell it's right there for a violin bow. So after doing more than 10,000 bows, you can feel it in your hands. Mm-hmm. So we have some good hair to use on a very good bow. Where's my comb? Oh, here it is. So I'll pull the short hairs up and get them fairly even. All the while I'm doing this, I'm looking for bad hair, split ends, knots, and after you do a lot of bows, you can feel it. Then I'll go down to the other side, because I want to use as little of the thin hair and as much of the thick hair as possible. So I'll even this out. And even on some of these, you can see there's little tiny knots at the end of this hair. But I'll even these up and then cut the little knots off so that when we're combing the hair, the comb does not grab on the little knots, and it will comb out nice and evenly. Just see how short that one is? Mm-hmm. See that? These are a little long, so we'll just pull those out and move them back down. Pull this one out. Move it down. Be sure there's no real short ones in here. These are a little bit short. We'll pull them up. Cut this so the ends are nice and fresh and they don't have any knots on them. And then I believe in starting at the tip and working towards the frog. Other people start at the frog and work towards the tip. But I'm a tip head first man. So I'll kind of measure this. And we will cut here. So I can cut the very ends of it off. This is powdered rosin. Very finely powdered. Take the accents rosin off. This is liquid crystal polymer cord. It's extremely strong and very fine. And I also put powdered rosin on it. And we use one particular very special knot. Come on. Ah. We'll pull it towards the end. pull the hair like this, twist it a little bit, roll it, because we want the hair, the knot to be as small as possible. This thread does not stretch at all, and it's extremely strong, so you have to be careful. If you pull too strong, it'll actually cut your fingers. So I wind 5 winds very tight, holding it tight. And I want to push the thread together so it's a nice, small, but very tight knot. That goes over once. And then we want to be sure to get a square knot, not a granny knot. And a square knot, the 2 cords are always at 90 degrees, never this way. And this knot will never come apart. And we cut this off, not exactly at the knot, we leave a little tiny space. I want to line the hairs up, be sure everything is nice and straight, and look at it. Then we cut it off in front. We leave just a little bit in front of it.
Dennis, can you hold it still real quick? Wow, you cut really close.
Yeah. But then, now this is the important part, and this is what I do, and I've never seen anyone else do it. But after 10,000 bows, these knots never come apart. And you don't have to put glue in the tip.
Dennis, is this 4/4 crochet tuned for the kid?
I'll be there shortly.
Ahora viene por si acaso.
So you see there's powdered rosin on this. There's powdered rosin inside the hair also, and inside the knot. So we pass it over the alcohol lamp, melting the rosin. We burn the tip of the hair at the bottom of the flame, where the flame is coolest. And it forms a little mushroom. Now, watch this. We heat it up until the rosin is melting. We crush it, and we turn it, and it's flat. It's super important that the hair be a ribbon, nice and flat with no crossed hairs all the way down the bow. And to do that, I believe it's important that the hair start flat at the bottom of the head mortise. And I have a small little simple screwdriver, and then we push it in. And so this small knot completely fills the bottom of the mortise. We flatten it, and then our little wedge fills in the rest, and it's tight, but it does not squeeze the side of the head. That's important that you don't squeeze this way, the size of the head, because that can, this is a 9,000-euro bow. We don't want to do any damage. And I'm pulling on the hair just ever so slightly, pulling backwards, and then pushing in very gently. And then we finish it just with little tiny. And the design of this bow is beautiful. And that you can see right here at the edges, there's a little tiny space that you can get your tool in. And when you take the wedge out in the future, you just put it in here and pop, it comes right out. So that's how a good rehairing in the head should look like. It's like the hair grew out of the ground. It grew out of the head. Then we take it over and see how beautifully it looks on this side.
Mm-hmm.
Get real close right there and you can see. Looks real beautiful right in here. That's very, very beautiful. That's what it's supposed to look like. That's how we start with our bow rehairing, at the head. This is critical that this be done correctly. So it's not too tight, but it's tight enough to never do any damage to the head, but yet protect it. And the hair will be nice and straight all the way down to the frog. Okay, now I have to go help your mother. And we gently hold this in our little rig. Voila! Isn't that cool?
Yep.